Hello, everyone. Welcome back to King Po Myers, and this is a very special episode where we celebrate St. Valentine's and horror and murder. And with us is our very special guest, Sam from Sam So Spooky. Sam, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Now, on this joyous Hallmark holiday, um, we got some movies, and today we're going to be talking about Valentine from 2001 and My Bloody Valentine, both the original and the remake. Just to start, was this a better experience or a worse experience than Christmas horror?
um, I don't want to say better because it's not. It's very cheesy. It's very campy. It's very trying too hard to make itself scary because it's in the same vein as like when we talked about in our Christmas horror episode how like you're trying to make a twist on the twinkly lights and make it something evil. It's the same thing with Valentine's Day. You're taking this whole day of love and romance and pink and red and you're trying to make it evil. So it's not better, but I also don't want to say it's worse because I don't think anything fully compares to some of those Christmas horror movies I've seen, like
Elves.
Yeah, or Red Christmas. It's like I didn't skip through these, so
I didn't skip through these.
that tells you you get them out there, you know. And like a lot of people make fun of My Bloody Valentine now, but at the same, well, actually not so much now. They made fun of it more back then. But the thing is it developed a cult following, and it really is like when you think Valentine's horror, what's the first one you think of? My Bloody Valentine. So it does still stand out and uphold.
I mean, I think for personally, these movies and just the concept of having a horror movie on Valentine's Day, for me at least, it makes a lot more sense than Christmas. I mean, yes, with the exception of Krampus, I like the idea of, you already have the color red and pink and there's hearts, and you can make that very twisted and very sick very fast, twisted Valentine's Day cards. Or I feel like it's easier than with Christmas, and it's like, no, this is joyous, like stop.
Well, also, what's one of the number one drives behind most murders? Love and hate is a very fine line.
So let's jump right into Valentine 2001. Do you want to go? Do you want my first thoughts? I mean, I'm excited for this one.
Okay, well, I'll tell you one of the first things that I thought, which it's related and unrelated to the movie at the same time, is I'm watching the movie, right? It starts to get in. I don't know how far into the movie, and then I'm like, David Boreanaz is in this film. And then it gets better because of the fact that they introduce him at the graveyard and he's walking away with one of the blonde characters who you don't immediately know which one it is. And you're just like, Buffy? Did you introduce him in the graveyard on purpose? Because this film came out in 2001. Buffy was still going on. Angel was still going on.
Okay.
So, and then of course it gets better aside from his graveyard intro later in the movie. And this is also in the trivia of the film. One of the characters remarks that he's no angel, which is a direct reference to his being Angel. It's just... So that's a immediate thing that happened upon watching that film. But also, and you'll see this, I think, mentioned in my review on Sam So Spooky, because that's already up. A lot of critics said that this movie referenced 80s slashers like too much, or that like it was very pre-Scream. And I was like, wait, pre-Scream? This movie is Scream. This is Valentine's Scream right here. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm of a similar mindset, but well, firstly, just to get out of the way, it has its issues. I enjoyed myself watching this. It wasn't like a grand slam by any stretch, but I mean, you have Denise Richards in it, which is just, one of my childhood loves. So I'm like, oh my God, you're in this? Okay. I only watch a few seasons of the show Bones, but you have Steely Booth in it, which I'm like, wait, Booth is in this? Like, okay. This is like an interesting assortment of cast. The other girls, they all were kind of blonde and similar, and I kind of kept getting them mixed up. And I'm like,
At
oh,
the same time, it's still an A-list cast. A lot of those blondes went on to be like on Grey's Anatomy and whatnot.
I'm not a Grey's Anatomy's fan. I do not know.
I've never watched it either, but I know upon research.
What I found very weird, and you said, it's Scream, it's Valentine Scream. I think it's Halloween Scream. I mean, I'm Halloween Valentines. Mainly
But
because
the funny thing is, Scream was partly inspired by Halloween.
Of course.
It all goes back. It all goes back to Halloween.
Obviously, and I want to just point this out at the very beginning. I mean, this is King Po Myers. Michael Myers is my Lord and Savior. I'm going to be making Halloween comparisons, not because I want to, but because I see everything through Halloween. That's why, nothing will ever compare to Halloween.
And like Halloween, because it was one of the first holiday slasher films, it set the precedent for all the other holiday slasher films that came after. Exactly. That's why we just keep coming back to Halloween. It was the pioneer up there with Black Christmas.
Absolutely. But what I found, what really made me remind me of Halloween was the way the killer acted. When in Scream, you had Ghostface, and Ghostface would run at you. He would fall over shit. He's actually very he'd trip a lot, and it's kind of Ghostface's thing.
Yeah.
He walked like Michael Myers. He had this slow, methodical walk. He never ran really, and it was just kind of like at one point, I think they're in the coroner's office, and she's running, and he's just slowly walking. I'm like, Michael with a different mask? Like, I was
quiet with the mask.
He was just very methodical, and I was just thinking, like, I know, I just kept getting Michael vibes, and I'm like, why would Michael was evil. We're not talking about Michael here, but that was Michael's thing. Why would this person, and of course we later find out who it actually is, why would you walk like that? Why were you so slow doing everything? Like, you seemed like a normal guy. I thought it was just Valentine's Day with Michael Myers, which is cool.
I think what ended up for me making me think more so of Scream is because of the way that it's like the whole red herring thing, and then it turns out, spoiler, to be the boyfriend at the end of the film. Like, that's very Skeet Ulrich, or yeah, that's his last name, right? In Scream. So that's why I was like, that's reminiscent, among other things that remind me of Scream. But we should probably tell our viewers why the killer became the killer.
You go.
Our man's got dissed at his 6th grade dance. None of the ladies want to dance with him. A bunch of dudes beat the shit out of him, and then he decided to wait 13 years and kill all the ladies methodically instead, which somebody in a user review on IMDb pointed out that that's like disproportionate retribution, because first of all, why wait 13 years from 6th grade? Man, get over it. Also, second, why would you kill the women when it was the group of dudes who beat you up? Like,
But one thing, like, I thought was just that, like, I yelled at the screen, I think, was he's asking out all the girls to dance, and all of them are making fun of him, and like he's just being dismissed. And he finally meets one girl. He's like, let's dance. And I think they end up going under the bleachers and making out. Just the king of stereotypes, making out underneath the bleachers. They go underneath the bleachers, and these guys, usually it's like, oh, look, they're making out. Haha. It's like, you're a fag. Like, what? And then then they ask him, like, then they ask her, like, what are you doing? And she's like, somehow, I forget if it was them or her, but it's realized falsely that he's like forcing himself on her, even though they watched them making out, and I'm like, wait,
They like ask the question. They say, did he attack you? And she, not wanting to be associated with the school nerd because she's already having problems as being what she calls herself a fat girl a lot.
Yeah.
So she's like, I have enough problems. She says this later in the film. I have enough problems. I didn't want to be associated with that. So I lied and said, yes, he did attack me.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, the poor little nerd boy. Like,
they pull a Carrie too by dumping, like punch or something on him, and like
mm-hmm.
the red spills over him. I'm like, very Carrie, very foreshadow. Much angst.
One, I didn't even think about that, and that's a wonderful point. Pay homage to Carrie, but once again, sorry, not sorry. Though we didn't kill anybody, back to Halloween, something traumatizing or something he's created that night. Michael was created on Halloween. This guy is created on Valentine's Day. Like, paying homage. Boom, boom.
I think a couple other fun facts about this particular film is that, because I mentioned that I keep thinking of Scream, is the main actress, Marley Shelton.
Yep.
She goes on to star in Scream in 2011 alongside Neve Campbell.
Really?
Yeah, so she ends up starring in Scream after this film anyway. And then also, a lot of these films, I found connections to my Christmas horror. I was like, oh boy.
Oh no.
So, for example, the director originally wanted Rebecca Gayheart as the main actress, and she turned it down, but saying like, oh, I don't want to be a Scream queen. But then she went on to do Santa's Sleigh, 2005.
Oh no.
It's all connected. But okay, the best thing I want to mention about Valentine 2001 that upon research was absolutely hysterical. And I don't know why I didn't immediately realize it during the movie. I mean, I noticed, again, hints of Scream, like the notes seemed similar in the composer. So I looked it up, but two different composers who worked on very similar things. But the soundtrack was so random and diverse and not fitting for the film that they made fun of it on SNL.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. It's in oh boy, hold on. I put it down here, but it's, I want to say season 25 or season 28 and episode 11. It's the one that's hosted by Jennifer Lopez, and I tried to find it and watch it online. I couldn't find it anywhere. You'd probably have to find a full episode because it's a short skit that basically like does it kind of like a commercial. Like it opens with someone being like, he loves me not. And it's like Valentine's Day and the soundtrack coming out. And they start like listing off like all these different bands, but then they mix it up with bands that don't exist. They just make up a whole bunch of other ones that like fit it. It's hysterical. You can find the like written script online on snltranscripts.jt.org, and it gives the transcript for everything they say during the episode. So I want to mention, okay, some of the bands that were on the soundtrack were Linkin Park, Disturbed, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, Orgy, Deftones. Like this is, you can already hear like this is for Valentine.
When I don't really pay attention to like the music really, but I will say like when they were playing music, I was like, oh my god! Like I was like what 11 when this came out. I felt like a preteen. It was great. It wasn't great.
Yeah. Linkin Park was one of my favorite bands back then for sure. But
oh god, yeah.
I can't believe that just to find out that this movie was made fun of by SNL. And it's very brief. Do you want me to read to you what they said?
Please, I need to know.
Okay, so it's specifically season 26, episode 11. And this is kind of how the skit plays out. You have an announcer who goes, he loves me not. It's Valentine's Day. Love hurts. Music from the motion picture Valentine, featuring music from 9 Inch Nails, The Deftones, Rob Zombie, Exquisite Mammals, TC, Wheelwright's Ghost, Grab the Jester, Motherboard, Skilled Homicide Harmony, Book, Fall Creek Confederacy, The Frown Squad, Motionless Sea, and Kayak. Further music from Valentine available now includes songs by Dirty Yellow Hammer, Donkey Kong UK, All Your Blood, Bang the Skull Slowly, Hat, Gravel Fork, The Handless Kings, Fiona Apple, Rabbit Punch, Rice, Nuclear Zeitgeist, Pineapple Man, Fool's Cap, and Buzzgum. Available in stores now with original songs by Brain George, Brian George, Pie Eating Contest, Mr. Ham Eye, Agribusiness, Marvin's Toes, Birmingham Sound Expedition, Stab the Bishop, Kunk, Marilyn Manson, Infant 714. Get your Valentine soundtrack today and hear previously unreleased material by Decimal Metaphor. Half of 5445 North Park Drive Community Vigilance and Restoration Committee, NCL. The Valentine soundtrack is available in stores now.
Damn it.
That's so great. Like, I know that's a lot, but like half of that is made up. And that's fantastic. I wish I could actually watch it, but as close as I could find was those transcripts.
I feel like this Valentine's Day for our significant others, we should have that going on in the background. Just money.
So would you like say that you would ever watch Valentine's 2001 again, or that you found it scary in any way?
Scary, no. But once again, for me, I will admit that's a uphill climb. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. Like, I feel like maybe not next Valentine's, but maybe the year after, I'll pop it on. I thought the killer was kind of cool. I mean, very tall, weird kind of mask. Looked a lot like Michael. Sorry, but he did.
Did you find the kills interesting?
I did. I thought
the art exhibition was like one of my favorite ones.
Which one?
The art exhibition.
Oh yeah, that one
was interesting. I liked that one.
With the bow and arrow.
Yes, very very Cupid, but like the way it was set up so that he got trapped in there, and then like the videos playing different like eyes that were watching them. Like, I liked that.
I also really appreciated the fact that the movie even had a part in there where it was like, yeah, his art sucks. I'm like, all right, yeah, because that was horrible. But yeah, the crossbow, that was nice. That was a nice touch. I thought the hot tub was. That was brutal.
I actually laughed because it's brutal that he's like hitting it like through the glass on the lid, right? But then he just goes, fuck it, opens the lid and tosses in the drill. I was like, oh yeah, so I guess she was gonna die either way.
That was good. It didn't do a lot wrong. Yeah, it's not a spectacular movie. Do not watch this movie, then DM me saying, hey, I was expecting something great. It's nothing revolutionary, but it was fun.
Yeah. I don't get, though, there's one thing that bothered me really towards the end, which is like, I knew that the boyfriend was going to secretly be the killer.
Yep.
But I don't understand how they don't explain Jessica Capshaw's death, really. Like, all of a sudden she's in the Cupid costume and they murder her and they're like, oh, it was her the whole time. But I'm like, her character's name's Dorothy, but it was Dorothy the whole time. And I'm like, y'all didn't explain how she got in that costume so fast and why she didn't say anything and why she came at y'all. Like, I am so confused.
I need to make a statement about this. Thank you for bringing this up, Sam, because this means a lot to me. I'm being very generous with my rating because when I watched it, I was kind of meh about it, but when you can give me a nice swerve ending, you just make me so ungodly happy. And it's not the first time this has been done, because killers, someone else wearing their costume and getting killed has happened before. But so just to put it in perspective, just to lay out the scene, she is with her boyfriend and she's like and he's acting very weird. Like, I think he's drunk and he's not supposed to be drinking.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird scene. Like, I think he forces her to dance with him, and you're like, oh shit, like this is the killer. He somehow leaves the picture, and then she's being stalked by the killer. Like, the killer comes, and they fall down the stairs together. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he comes down the stairs and shoots the killer. And you're like, oh my God, the killer's dead. Like, hooray. One, when you fall down a flight of stairs, who does the Michael Myers sit up? Like, who sits up directly like that, doing the 90-degree angle? Like, it's, especially the fact that we found out later it was the girl and not him. Like, who would ever sit up like that? That was clearly, just for like an audience reaction. Like, oh my God, he's back up. No one sits up like that. It's very uncomfortable to sit up like that.
And again, I thought of Scream because I just heard Randy in my head saying, be careful. This is where the killer comes back for one last scare.
Oh my God. Sam,
Yeah.
you're Randy. You're Randy.
Me? I'm Randy? Of course I'm Randy.
You're Randy.
I love Randy.
Well, who doesn't love Randy? I mean, come on.
I want to make a shirt that says, you don't know the rules with Randy on it.
It's a simple formula.
A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect. Again, that's Scream. Oh my God. I love Scream so much.
Scream is a masterpiece. Like,
this is why I immediately watched it after Valentine 2001, is because it was so similar for me. I had to make sure that I was seeing it correctly.
And yeah, like that, just that last shot where it's like, the boyfriend's consoling his girlfriend, and everything's right, and then his nose starts to bleed, which we should have mentioned at the very beginning. The killer had this nose thing where he would just start bleeding whenever, like, after he killed someone. I think he bled every time.
Yeah, it was like it turned him on or something, so his nose would start bleeding. So then, like, at the very end, when you're thinking like, oh, the killer was Dorothy, the way they reveal that it was him is his nose starts to bleed, and then it just ends, and you're like, okay,
works for me. I got my swerve. I was very pleased. Will you be watching this again?
I don't think so. I think I'm gonna be more likely to watch My Bloody Valentine again. So let's segue into those.
Okay.
You want to talk about 1981 first?
Sure.
So I want to talk about how, we talked how Valentine 2001 was reminiscent of Halloween. I feel personally, My Bloody Valentine was very reminiscent of Halloween, especially 1981, because that came out just a couple years after.
It was like Halloween?
Huh?
Explain how it was like Halloween. I did not pick up any of those subtle hints. They were very subtle, by the way.
It got criticized for being Halloween when it came out, too. So My Bloody Valentine 1991 is a Canadian slasher film that was made in Canada, and it followed the release of Black Christmas, Halloween, which was 1978, and Friday the 13th, which was 1980. So it was banking off of the commercialization success of those films, and they were like, okay, well, we need to do a holiday slasher, and they settled on Valentine's Day. And the reason why I believe it was already following in that success of the holiday slasher genre, and then it's very akin to Michael's story, because it was about a guy who went into a psychiatric hospital, and the town didn't want to celebrate Valentine's Day because of him for 20 years. And then he returns on Valentine's Day, sounding very familiar, yes. And then they also have, again, the whole mask. He doesn't say anything. He's very, in the very first film of My Bloody Valentine, he's very, he's slower. He's not running at you, but he's slower. Not as slow as Michael, but he does know what he's doing. And then also they took the point of view shot the point of view shots pioneered by Michael Looking, they put into there, and there's not a lot, but there is, like, when he goes to kill Mabel in the laundromat, it's all point of view as he kills her. And I'm like, is this Halloween? And that's not even like 15 minutes into the film. Yeah.
It is a very basic formula.
Exactly, just like Randy said.
I saw it immediately. Obviously, it's hard not to. I liked it. I mean,
I liked it too.
It worked, and I thought, just also another reference. I've been very excited to watch these movies for a very long time. I've known about the My Bloody Valentine killer for a long time. The Valentine cover of 2001 Valentine, the mask always, like, these masks, these costumes always really appealed to me. So when I finally got to see them, I thought he was kind of kick ass. I mean, yes, he's a Michael 2.0, not better than the original by any means, but I liked it. I did. I like how he was sending Valentines with people's hearts in them to people. I thought
he's a little bit more like, he's like Michael meets Billy from Black Christmas, because he's like also psychotic, and he's purposely trying to terrorize everybody.
Yeah.
Like for Black Christmas, it was the phone calls. In My Bloody Valentine, it's the hearts in the Valentine's boxes. And he leaves the Valentine's notes in them about how they're like trying to die. But it's, what's funny to me is that this film, when it first came out, had a lot of fights with the MPAA, which is the Motion Picture Association of America. And they had this whole thing where they were criticized a lot for their violence and gore, and like they had to like keep scaling back footage. And there's rumors, like, okay, they say like they took like 8 to 9 minutes out of the film of like a lot of the gory death scenes.
I need the uncut version.
And that's funny because guess what? So it's debatable whether or not it was 8 to 9 minutes. Some people say it was only like 2, but when Lionsgate got the rights to My Bloody Valentine, and they released the next one, the remake in 2009, My Bloody Valentine 3D, when they got the rights, they also released, I'm gonna read it to you if I can find it on my little notes here. Hold on. Because it's a bit of a mouthful. Okay, they released an unrated Region 1 special edition DVD and Blu-ray featuring the footage that was missing.
Okay.
So, and if you're a horror fan, I guess we need these. From what I understand, though, the footage that they restored and that's uncut, you can still see when you watch the movie online, because some of the scenes they described, I'm like, didn't I just watch that when I watched this on Amazon Prime just now? So, but like other scenes they say are lost, like the director, producer, they remember filming this, like how the couple, Harriet and or I don't remember if her name was Harriet actually, but like the couple that went off and fucked in the engine room. They say they remember filming like how they were murdered, but that's not shown in the film. It's all of a sudden Hollis walks in and there's like a corkscrew through the both of them. So they're saying like some of that footage was lost. But again, I find it so funny that like they're like, this film is so gory and violent, and through my modern day 21st century lens of desensitization, I'm just like, really? This one? But I guess like 1981. And they also, what's fascinating too? The other reason they apparently wanted to cut a lot of the gore and violence out of the film is because of John Lennon's murder in December of 1980. So like a few months before this movie was released, they're like, I guess there was a backlash where a lot of films were being told like, oh, you need to cut back on your violence and gore because we're all a little bit upset about John Lennon.
And then Jason's like, yeah, okay, I'll get right on that. That's insane. Wow.
Yeah. It's also fascinating learning about like how the film was made because they went into actual mines, and it would take an hour to get the entire film, like all the crew and their equipment down there, because you could only transport so many things at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason why the film is also super dark is because they had to be careful with lighting, otherwise they could cause an explosion with the methane gas that was down there. Yeah. Oh, it gets better. It gets better. So
How?
The owners of the mine,
Mm-hmm.
when they found out that the director and the film crew wanted to film there, they were like, "Oh, that's amazing!" And they spent thousands of dollars cleaning up the mine, making it like pristine and nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then the film crew was like, "That's not what we wanted. We wanted it to look like used and like people have been down there." So then they spent an additional like $30,000 to $50,000 restoring it to look dirty and like it had been used.
Are you kidding?
I would say around $100,000 got spent between cleaning it up and restoring it to look dirty. Isn't that what?
The owner's hearts were in the right place. They're like, "We'll clean it up for you." No,
Yeah.
No, we want gritty.
And I would say it wasn't super worth it because, I mean, the film itself, like, they had a 2.3 million budget, but they only made 5.7 mil at the box office. So it wasn't much more than they even spent.
Yeah.
And again, this had a lot to do with the gore and the violence and the MPAA. Another fascinating thing is I mentioned that this was writing off of Halloween and Friday the 13th. The beginning of this film, My Bloody Valentine, 1981, they say that it starts on Thursday the 12th, implying that the dance is over the weekend on the 14th, but that there's a Friday the 13th in between. And this is to directly reference that.
Oh, so good.
So good. Which
so good.
Leads me into My Bloody Valentine 3D 2009, because the very first two kills that happen on screen are named Jason and Michael.
No way.
Yeah.
Just with that, I may have to watch it. That warms my heart. That's wonderful.
Yes. So, do you have anything else to say about 1981 before I tell you all about the 3D 2009 version? Because I have a lot to get into with that for you.
Okay. So, I guess to wrap up the original My Bloody Valentine, once again, I love the killer. I thought I won't call them kids. What are they, like, right out of high school, maybe?
Yeah, so they were flipping the script on the whole teen group having to face the killer. They made them in their early 20s. They have jobs. They're just trying to figure out their lives. Like they're a little bit older.
Yeah. I like that. I thought the kills were pretty decent. When he puts the old woman in the dryer, I was like, oh dear God. Like,
I was like, she would burn that fast.
I really love the ending. And once again, spoiler. The two guys who've been fighting over this girl, you find out that one of them's the killer. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked to the cockles of my heart. And some of the mine kind of falls in on him, and they're walking away, and then like the rescue team comes down into the mine, and they're like start to dig him out, and they're like, "We got him," and the girl's like, "I love him," and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" "I need to see him one last time." She runs back in, and just classic creepy horror. He's back up, but they can only see like into the mine, and he starts just talking like a psycho in this really creepy voice, and the movie ends with him going back into the mine with them unable to get him.
Trapped in like one of the abandoned sectors, because it says danger, keep out when they break into that part.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when they're watching him through it, because like they find his arm and they think he's alive, but it's the arm that actually got ripped off by the fall. So he's missing an arm and it's bleeding all over the place. And this is again part of that violence and gore. And like, you're right, as he's getting away, he's like maniacally laughing and saying like he's gonna come back for them all. And then he says really creepy, like, will you be my Valentine, Sarah? And I swear to this whole ending, like him through the rocks, like them watching him like lose his mind and run back into the mines with a missing arm, laughing maniacally and saying crazy shit. I'm like, that's Billy from Black Christmas right there. And that's the creepiest part of the film for me.
Absolutely. I mean, once again, they really stuck the ending. I thought that was an amazing ending. And to really put the cherry on top, for me at least, it goes into the ending credits and they start playing this song. And at first I'm like, what the hell is this? And they do like this, what is it?
Like a ballad about Valentine's Day and the Haniger mine.
I loved it. But now, going into the movie that you watch, I did not watch just yet. I think I may not watch it. Is the remake of My Bloody Valentine?
Yes, 2009 3D, baby.
Whenever a horror movie slaps on a 3D, I'm immediately very, very afraid. It's never a good sign.
One of the things that a lot of people pointed out, and this goes for both My Bloody Valentines, is that it knows that it's cliche and absurd and it's cheesy and campy, and it leans into it all 100%. It's all the kills are very straightforward, all right? An axe to the head here, hit stab you with this there, like it's all very straightforward. And so when they do the remake, they again pull out all the stops. So every reason that they could find to make it 3D, they did. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't watch it in 3D because it's just on my TV, but it's painfully obvious which like scenes were supposed to be 3D and come out at you. Like you can still see it in the movie. I'm gonna tell you right now. Wait, do you want to know what happens to Tom Atkins?
Sam told me before we started recording that Tom Atkins was in My Bloody Valentine 2009. Yeah. And I was so happy and so excited. Yeah, what you're gonna probably ruin my day. What happens to Tom Atkins in Halloween? My Bloody Valentine 2009.
His jaw goes flying at the screen. So if it was 3D, his jaw would have gone flying at you.
His jaw.
Yeah. Right. And then like a couple other things is that aside from famous Tom Atkins, you have Jensen Ackles, who was on Supernatural at the time because Supernatural started in 2005. So the whole time, me, a big Supernatural fan, was like, Dean, come on, Dean, you can fight this guy, Dean. Like, and another thing I want to note here before I continue to talk about him is that amazingly enough, I love this fact, is that Jensen Ackles did the My Bloody Valentine remake in 2009, while Jared Padalecki did the Friday the 13th remake in 2009. That's beautiful.
Wow.
My Winchester boys out here doing us proud.
Did you watch?
I have seen that one.
Friday the 13th, the remake.
With Jared Padalecki. Yeah, and it made me mad because Jared Padalecki would never die like that. So he's Sam Winchester.
So, all right. Which one did you prefer then? Real quick.
Between the My Bloody Valentine? Or?
My Bloody Valentine 09 and Friday the 13th 09.
I probably would watch Friday the 13th 09.
Really?
Yeah, and part of the reason why is because, like, okay, My Bloody Valentine 2009 is a lot. It's a lot. Like I told you, like they pull out all the stops already for like the 3D, but it's also very fast paced and it's unrelenting in that pace. And it hits you with a lot of things, all right? It hits you, even the film like opens very quickly, all right? There's like a 3-tier introduction followed by like a 15-minute speed run of like the entire first movie in 1981, and then like everything happens very fucking fast, and you're like, whoa there, like we're already in what feels like the end of the movie, but we're only a few minutes in. Like, what is happening? And they do this because they take the movie in a different direction. So like they speed run. First 15 minutes is basically what happens in 1981, and then the rest of the film is like 10 years later and how things play out then. So it's like they're older, and there's like all these other twists and turns. Lots of gore. Like the very first scene with Tom Atkins, like the level of gore, I was like, I looked at the screen, I was like, whoa, oh, okay, oh, we're going into this, all right. And then lots of nudity, which is like, these are staples of the horror genre, but I also want to point out real quick that in My Bloody Valentine 1981, fascinatingly enough, there's no nudity. Usually, when part of the formula for a horror film is that and Randy says it himself, if a woman has sex, or if a woman shows her breasts, or like is naked in any way, like horse herself in any way, she has to die. But all of the women are allowed more of a decent death. They don't have to take off their clothes to die. They're just straight up murdered.
Higher kill count, I assume, in the remake?
The what?
Higher kill count?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Higher kill count, way gorier deaths. I don't know how entirely I feel about the acting or the 3D. I do like when I, again, did my research like the little nerd that I am, I do like what a couple other critics had said about it, which one of them was Jeanette Katsoulis, I hope I said her last name right, of the New York Times. She said, a strange synergy of old and new, My Bloody Valentine 3D blends cutting-edge technology and old-school prosthetics to produce something both familiar and alien, gore you can believe in. And then Frank Scheck from The Hollywood Reporter also went on to say, the real acting comes courtesy of veteran character actors, Teague and Atkins, whose presence provides a comforting bridge to horror films past. And I agree with both those statements. I think that sums it up very nicely, the combination of the old school 1981 and the modern 3D. I mean, I think one of the best scenes, like, it's not 3D, but one of the best blends of that old school with the modern technology is there's a few scenes that pay homage to the original My Bloody Valentine. There's like 3 or 4 scenes. But one of my favorites, and it's probably my favorite scene in the whole film actually, is, do you remember in the first one when the mine's already dark, but he's going through and he's taking the end of his pickaxe and he's knocking out every single light?
Yes.
So it's getting darker? Okay, so in the remake, they do the same thing where somebody. Okay, spoiler, I guess, is knocking out the lights. And as he's going through, every time he hits the light, it's my favorite. I love it. Every time he hits the light, for a brief second, he turns into like the full miner garb with the mask. So like when he hits it, all of a sudden in the dark, you see him full miner. But then as he pulls away, he goes back to himself. And and this happens every time he knocks out a light. And you're like,
that's cool. That's really cool.
It is cool. I do like it. And I was curious to know a little bit more about 3D movies because of this. So I was
Aren't they a lot extra? To do 3D, it's like a special film, and isn't it extra?
I mean, it is a lot extra, but not so much today as it was back then, because fascinatingly enough, I was like, when was the first 3D movie? You won't believe this. The first 3D movie.
Wait. Can I guess?
Yes.
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
No.
Damn it. Well, what is it?
It's The Power of Love, which came out September 27th, 1922. Yeah. We've had 3D movies since the 1920s, technically the 1915.
I'm so
Yeah,
lost.
I was shocked.
I'm
Like,
so lost.
it wasn't really a thing, but as we were, and I had been doing a lot of research lately because I did the 1920s theme for the month of January on Sam So Spooky,
Mm-hmm.
is as we were creating different types of machines for film and audio and photography, and we were coming up with all these inventions, there was a brief moment where they were coming up with a 3D type of invention for
Mm-hmm.
film. And there's an old picture of everyone in the audience with the traditional 3D glasses. It's the two-tone color. And basically, the best way I can describe it, because I don't fully understand it myself without seeing it, is that there was like 3 strips of film. 2 were in black and white and 1 was in the color. And the other cool thing was for the power of love, and it's lost to time, unfortunately, is
No.
that the end of the film had 2 endings. It had 2 possible endings, and the audience was able to choose. And the way they would choose is they would switch to one color. So I think they said, we know it as red and blue for 3D. So
Yeah.
but I want to say they said red and green. But basically, you would view it through the one color, whichever ending you wanted, the happy or sad. Yeah, it's pretty
My
fascinating.
mind is blown right now. And I got really excited to check this movie out. It's lost.
Yeah, it's lost to time, unfortunately. And then the other thing, because I mean, a lot of 1920s movies were made of nitrate, so they would burn up really quickly when not stored properly.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of film has been lost to time. But another fascinating thing about this is that this means 3D movies are older than the internet. What? I what? Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah,
fascinating.
I'm just gonna take that in for a second.
I know, and some of you are wondering, Samantha, when was the internet invented? The World Wide Web was invented only in 1989, and then the first, because like I was also wondering, okay, so the 3D movies are older than the internet. Then I started to wonder, okay, when was video games created and when was VR created? So first video game was 1958. So that was before the internet. And the very first VR was 1957. So they're 1 year apart. So video games and VR and 3D all came before the internet.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
the reason I bring this up is because so this movie 3D films, they make a lot of money, and IMAX and Disney banks off of this the most, especially because they can take any 2D movie they've made and re-release it as 3D and make more money off of it. So for example, you heard me mention earlier how low the budget and the box office was for 1981. Okay, well, My Bloody Valentine 3D was the very first R-rated film to be projected in real D technology, and their budget was 14 mil. They box officed 100.7 million. They made a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. Your budget's 14 and you make 100 back. What?
Hmm.
But the other thing too is that so 3D may have started in 1922, but it didn't start becoming popular until 1980s, 1990s with IMAX and Disney. And then it really hit its peak with when Avatar came out. And then since then, there's been a bit of a decline. And it's also because there's research about how there are health effects with 3D viewing because it's a strain on our eyes. And there's even a percentage of people who can't view it that way because of the way the cones are in their eyes and the way we perceive things. Yeah, which is interesting because they're trying to push the advancement of 3D technology. They're trying to railroad, like a lot of people who want more 3D movies, they're trying to railroad theaters into doing more or allowing more to be seen versus, and then they're like pushing it to turn into 4D, which if you don't know what 4D movies are, it means that like it's 3D, but also there are things happening in the audience like you're on a ride. So like, for example, let's say the characters in the movie are going through a snowstorm. They might blast cold air on you in the audience. It's things like that. Or like if there's a rocky car ride, maybe your seat starts to move a little bit. Things like that. I have not seen a 4D movie, but I have had a friend who has, and she described a similar experience to me. But if you were to ask me, do I think 3D movies are the future of movies? I would say no. I could be wrong, but I would say no. I think it's going to be VR, which is why I brought VR up, because if it's such a strain to have the movie pop out at us, like bring the movie out of the screen towards us, it's easier to put us into the movie. Hence, you know, VR, like goggles and headsets, things that will put you in the movie itself.
Okay.
That's where I see it going. And because I already see that happening with video games. A lot of video games are going VR. So I would not be surprised for movies to do the same thing. And like one of the biggest examples I can think of this is if you've ever seen or read Ready Player One, that's like a great example of that.
These movies aside, like, do you enjoy doing 3D?
I don't think it makes a difference on a film personally. I think some other critics had described it as like cheap thrills and cheap scares, and that's kind of what it feels like to me. I mean, like you're finding an excuse. You're taking the time to figure out, okay, how can I change this scene so that it pops out at my audience or scares my audience? So like in My Bloody Valentine 2009, there's a lot of pickaxe stuff. Like the pickaxe comes at you a lot. And I'm like, this makes no difference to me. Like, this doesn't really... Because you're taking the time to try and come at me versus building the suspense, building the characters, building the climax of the film. Yeah. Like, that's where I... Psychologically, like, get in my head. Like, make me scared. Don't... You coming out the screen is like... That's just a quick jump scare. You know? You're like, oh... versus like being legit scared.
I've always found 3D just to be a annoying little fad. I always have a headache. The few times I've ever done it, I always have some type of headache, migraine, and I'm like, no, it's just not for me. I think it's a cheap little gimmick.
Same. And also, like, for people who wear glasses, it's not fun because I wear contacts now, but I used to wear glasses, and I remember having to wear my 3D glasses over my regular glasses once, and I was just like, this hurts. This is awful.
Yeah, no thanks. But the 3D aside, which do you prefer, the original or the remake?
The original. The original does a better job at... I mean, the story is, it's not meant to be elaborate. You know, guy comes back, starts killing people off. Like I said, kills very straightforward. But it's more suspenseful in the first one because they did so much filming down in the mines. And you're trapped down there with a serial killer. And you have no idea how to get out. And then slowly he's killing off the only people who know their way around the mines. So now, you know, here you are down here in the dark. You're 2,000 miles below the surface. Or well, you know, in actuality, when they filmed it, it was like 900 feet. But they talk about how far down the mines go in the film. And you have no idea how to get out. And there's a guy trying to kill you. Like, that's more suspenseful. That's better.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I don't like caves, so I don't think I can handle a mine very well.
It's meant to be claustrophobic too.
Yeah.
That was part of their idea behind filming it, is to make it feel claustrophobic. Versus like in My Bloody Valentine 2009, there's only maybe like 3 scenes in the mine. Like there's just like a few. They're very brief, and you could tell that like the mines in the remake are way more well lit. So I think maybe they recreated a set. I don't remember if I read anything about them going into any actual mines, but like, or even then, like when they do show the mine, there's like a door on ground level and you just like walk straight in. Mm-hmm. Versus in 1981, you had to get in like the railroad cart or like in the elevator and you had to go down, 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 down.
Yeah, they really made it feel like you were going down into the mine. Just that very, yeah, no, like if it, I'm a little bit, I'm not totally claustrophobic, but I'm a little bit. So like, yeah, that really disturbed me. I'm not doing mines, but
the idea of being deep in the ground to me is very The Descent or As Above, So Below.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would get claustrophobic playing Minecraft sometimes. Like I'd lose my way and I'd just no. You watch both of them. Which had the best kill?
Ooh, best kill. That's a really good question. I have to think about this for a second because there's a lot of very interesting ones that happen. So much is very like just pickaxe, like pickaxe your chest, pickaxe your head, pickaxe you. I gotcha.
I think it's a very underutilized weapon in the horror genre. I have a pickaxe in my shed, and every time I look at it, I'm like, horror pickaxe. That works.
Pickaxes make me think of the Seven Dwarfs and Snow White. It's a little more PG in my head when it comes to the pickaxe. But of course, it's not to say it doesn't make a great murder weapon, obviously, especially after seeing the My Bloody Valentine films. I don't know. I would have to think about that some more because the only other things popping into my head besides the pickaxe scenes are when he boils one of the guy's faces in the hot dogs, and then also the women in the dryer. So they do that in the original and they do it in the remake. There's a woman who goes in the dryer. Mm-hmm. He does take one person out with a shovel. Just goes like right through her mouth, and then you could tell it's supposed to be 3D, like her head like slides forward on the shovel. Yeah. God damn it. I don't know. They're just all very like gore, violence, straight to the point. I don't think there's a kill that immediately comes to mind that I'm like, well, that was unique or that was fascinating.
Yeah, nothing blew me away in the original one, but it worked.
Oh, that's Hollis gets the nails to the head. And then you have the couple who gets the corkscrew through them. You can tell it's very stabby, stab, stab.
Yeah, the corkscrew one, I was like, that would take you would need real strength to put a corkscrew through two people.
You would need some Michael Myers strength.
Yeah, that's Michael Jason-esque level of just power.
Also, the way they say, like, Axel died, like, by falling into the water at first, and they're like, oh, it's 60 feet deep. I'm like, you can't swim? What?
I thought the same thing. Like, just wait for him. He'll come back up. No, gotta keep going.
The other thing that crossed my mind was, like, maybe his gear was too heavy and weighing him down. I was like, I don't know how heavy mining gear is. It looks considerably light, but maybe it's pretty heavy, especially to keep out any methane gas. I would not know. Also, the whole miner getup with the masks, I know that Sabrina was referencing this when they filmed it, but like my mind kept going back to Chilling Adventures because that was their reference to My Bloody Valentine. So, because that's what My Chilling Adventures does, is they reference horror movies past. Mm-hmm. So when they brought in the miners with the full getup, that was them referencing the miners who all die at the beginning of My Bloody Valentine 1981.
I totally forgot about Sabrina. Good catch.
Yes.
Would you recommend I'm sorry, one of these three movies to a young couple on Valentine's Day?
I mean, depending on what kind of couple you are and what you're looking for this Valentine's Day. Like, for example, gentlemen, if your lady doesn't like horror movies and you would like her to, jump and then cling to you for protection, go with My Bloody Valentine 2009 3D. That's sure to help. All right. If you're looking for a bit more of a laid back kind of horror movie for Valentine's Day, I would go with My Bloody Valentine 1981. Very classic. All right. You could eat that one with popcorn, put your arm around her. If you're looking for a little bit more cheesy, lots of Valentines and chocolates, pulling out all the stops of what you would give a lady, you could go with Valentine 2001.
And that is love advice from Sam So Spooky.
Happy Valentine's Day, creeps.
Happy Valentine's Day, creeps, indeed. Any last thoughts, final comments on these three pillars of this festive holiday?
I was very fascinated to find out two other connections to my Christmas horror list. But aside from that, I found a crossover where it's not like a crossover film, but basically it's where My Bloody Valentine meets Valentine. And that's with, what's her name? Hailene Udy? Or not Hailene Udy. It's her and Jessica Capshaw together. Yeah. So they both are on I believe it's a show or a movie called Blind Trust. But just the fact that one of the actresses from the original My Bloody Valentine, by the way, she plays Sylvia in the 1981 version, acts alongside Jessica Capshaw from Valentine 2001 in Blind Trust. Yeah. So that was cool. I was like, this is where those two movies meet. And like some of you are like, why is that so interesting, Samantha? I'm a nerd, okay? I like wherever there's some kind of connection or crossover. Okay, to me, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. All right. It's like, wow, you guys are 1 degree away from each other by this. And that's the last thing I have to say about it.
I mean, speaking randomly of Kevin Bacon, I think it's amazing that he was in the original Friday the 13th, and now he may be the new Freddy.
What?
There are talks.
Get the fuck out of here.
That Mr. Kevin Bacon will play Freddy Krueger.
What? Okay. What? I don't think... I have a hard time.
It's not confirmed. I'm not saying it's confirmed. I'm just saying I've read several articles the past couple months that there are talks.
I doubt it. I feel like if you've ever seen Robert Englund's Instagram, that man plays Freddy in his everyday life. Like, I think he would rather be Freddy himself. And I don't see anyone ever filling his shoes. Which, by the way, I never watched the one where the Freddy is a different actor. I never seen that one. I know I should watch it. Eventually, I will get to it. But I just can't because I like Robert Englund best.
Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. That's why we love him so much. He is. I just, as a kid growing up, random side tangent, I was always so upset and annoyed when I'd see like one of my favorite actors and like their hair is different, they talk differently, and they're like, oh, that character was like so troubled. I'm like, no, it's you. Like that always just bummed me out, just the fact they would separate it. And Robert Englund's like, I'm Freddy, bitch. Like he's just so proud of that character. Like he is Freddy Krueger.
He's the one who brought that character to life. But yeah, that's our greats. We got Freddy, we got Jason, we have Michael Myers, Halloween, and we have My Bloody Valentines, which I won't tell you who it is, but I'm going to tell you that both movies have a different killer at the end.
Really?
Yeah. The 2009 remake, because, like I said, they speed runned it, skipped forward, and continued it in the future, they have a different twist ending.
Without saying it, what twist ending do you prefer?
The first one. But that's not to say that 2009 isn't creepy. I think I'm just a little biased because I'm like, Jensen Ackles, like you're Dean Winchester. Like you could have solved this whole film. We could have been done this. At the very beginning of the film, the second he walked on screen and I saw Jensen Ackles, I was like, Dad's been on a hunting trip and he hasn't been home in a few days.
Oh, you Supernatural fans.
All right. Anyways, happy Valentine's Day, guys. I hope you enjoy those horror movies if you decide to watch any of them.
I definitely recommend at least My Bloody Valentine, original or remake. I think like I'm psyched enough now to I want to watch the remake. Let us know if you do watch your are going to watch these for Valentine's Day, or if you've already watched them. What are your opinions? Let us know. DM us. Like let's have a chat because good stuff, just classic. And me and Sammy are not done with our holiday specials. We will be doing St. Patty's Day.
He's nervous because he has to watch Leprechaun for the St. Patty's Day one, but he's not going to watch nearly as many as I am. I'm going to watch all of them.
You and the Leprechaun can hang out in the hood, and I hope you have nothing but fun. Doesn't he go to space at one point?
Yes, he goes to space. We're also going to talk about Irish horror films alongside that, though. So it's not going to be all Leprechaun. That's one of the many things you have to look forward to on our holiday horror segments. And then otherwise, you can find me at Sam So Spooky on Instagram or on my art page at Sam the Creative, both on Instagram.
Check her out. She's doing a lot of reviews on all these movies that Dylan will not watch.
I am a trooper. For Valentine's Day, too, aside from these lovely Valentine's Day horror films, and I will be watching some more that I'll be reviewing for the rest of February, I also am doing Creepy Valentines. I'm doing different Creepy Valentine's Day photo shoots. So if you're interested in that, you guys also have that to look forward to from me.
Sam, thank you again. Thank you for coming on and talking St. Valentine's Day horror with us. We'll be back for St. Patty's Day. Until then, I'll be cringing until I watch Leprechaun and then all throughout it. Thank you, guys.